Serious, nosy parents of Reddit, what's the most messed up thing you discovered snooping through your kid's bedroom? When my son was 3, I found an old banana peel in a clipboard that opened. We were battling a fruit fly infestation and couldn't figure out what they were after. It was so disgusting when I opened that thing and hundreds of fruit flies flew out. My brother left a banana and a container of food in his backpack all summer. He finally cleaned it out and it was crawling with maggots. And something else flew out that he was never able to find. It was horrifying. I don't snoop, so I haven't stumbled across anything too crazy, but when my kids were in 3rd and 4th grade I found a shoebox, without the top, filled with actual cash and Jesus dollars. When I grabbed their hamper to do laundry, Jesus dollars were something my kids' school gave out to kids for good behavior or high scores or doing anything Jesus-like. My daughter was a top student and collected a lot of Jesus dollars. They were allowed to be cashed in at the school store, but my daughter didn't see anything worth buying. My son has always been the kind of kid who could sell ice to an Eskimo, so they combined my daughter's ability to get a lot of Jesus dollars and my son's car salesman skills to sell their fake money for real money during recess. They had 44 real dollars when I found their stash. We don't pay for regular chores, so finding that much money in their closet at that age was a little weird. They admitted to it right away and thought their plan was great, but I did put an end to it because I didn't want parents to call the school complaining that my kids scammed them out of their snack money. I'm not religious, but it also seemed anti-Jesus-like to encourage it. My kids are teenagers now, but they keep their rooms clean and have been in charge of their own laundry for years, so their Jesus dollars operation remains the most shocking discovery, and I hope to keep it that way. Polaroids of my daughter having sex. It was years ago when she was a freshman in college. We came to help her move out of her dorm. Hopefully they weren't in your son's room. Not snooping through his room, but stuff he was throwing out. I found my son's journal from when he was about 9. In it, he chronicles how he heard me and my then boyfriend have sex on multiple occasions. I probably died of embarrassment reading it. Bahaha, I wrote that in my journal once. Complete with quotes from the whole ordeal. Really cringy things were screamed. Thin walls. Our kids share a small bedroom, so there isn't many places to hide stuff. They're young. 4 and 6. We don't let them have much candy or sugary treats. A few times a week they will have some cookies or something, but not every day. So one day my wife is in there cleaning and she pulled one of their beds away from the wall to vacuum and found our eldest's daughter's stash of candy. She had all kinds there. Kit Kats, Twix, packets of potato chips. It was all unopened except for some bags of hard candy. We were both quite surprised because we keep the candy out of their reach in high cupboards in our kitchen. So how exactly did she amass such a collection of delicious contraband? Well, it turned out she would take her candy when given it by us and sometimes save it. She would never refuse a treat even if she didn't particularly want it, because she might want it later, and so stashed it behind her bed in the gap against the wall. I found it quite interesting that she could have such forward thinking to know she would maybe want some candy later and needed to secure her supply now. So anyway, we let her keep the candy, but we put it in a bowl on her dresser and we explained to her she didn't need to eat it all. She could continue to keep it there for when she wants some candy. Neither of them have eaten that stash. Just a few pieces. So I guess it worked out pretty good. The child of the story. But my parents have 2 houses. One main one. And a little beach place. I maintain a room in both. My fiance and I use an ammo can for storing our sex toys. Rope. Vibrators. Lubes. Etc. Last take we were at the beach house. It got left behind. This time when we went there, it was where we left it. But opened. If you don't know how to close it, and you're nervous due to the nature of what you found, it can be hard to close. So, one of my parents, assumably my mom, found the rope, vibrators, butt plugs, etc. Either that or the housekeeper was snooping. And I doubt that. An old, cheap revolver scared the hell out of me. What did you do? I was terrified of what may have been done with it and why my teen had it. That was the only time I admitted to snooping around, and I was considering taking it to the police. He was scared and crying and begged me to give it back to him so he could return it to its owner. He was pleading with me and said he'd be in bigger trouble if he couldn't return it. Reluctantly, I did. That was an emotionally awful day. We've never spoken of it. I must have blocked it out until now because I just never think of it. That was about 12-13 years ago. I still don't know why he had it or what became of it. When my son was 6 years old, I went into his room and found a live pigeon that he had been keeping as a pet. He was really sad when I let it outside. My mom found my list of SZOL partners. I keep a list for personal reasons and also so I know who to call just in case I get an irregular test result. But I digress. When I was 22 and lost it. Mostly because she thought that was way too many partners for a woman to have. But also because there were women on that list. She'll never know that what she found was a super old and outdated list and that her daughter is, as the kids put it, a bit of a SLT. Letters from the school pertaining to grades and behavior issues. Bottles full of PSS. Apparently the bathroom next door is just too fire. My parents raided my older brother's room once. The cum sock. Oh my god, a cum sock. At least it wasn't a hat. I was having breakfast at a friend's house and his dad came downstairs asking what the frick the brown goop in one of his hats was, inch deep in a baseball cap. He said he did that when he had the flu and just coughed everything up into it since it was close by and old and he just forgot about it. Later on I was like, how did you cough up that much tea? And he laughed and said, nah man, that was my cum hat. This was senior year of high school. I still don't understand. My kids' friends all hang out at my house to use my computer. Although my kids are younger. Their older friend is 14. I found that he has been using my computer to look at porn. Which is like a big deal. His younger brothers came to tattle on him to me and I was like, do you seriously think I didn't know? They now think I'm a computer god. My mum was helping me pack up my house after my husband died earlier this year. I had told her I'd handle our bedroom. But she went in there anyway and opened all the drawers. She found FX toys. Lots of lube. Boxes of condoms from when hubby and I first started dating. All my lingerie. Photos of me in said lingerie. I don't know what she expected, but maybe don't open your 30-year daughter and her husband's personal drawers. I just about had a heart attack. Thank God she didn't snoop much further because we had some coke and Valium in the back of that drawer. I'm sure she would have freaked if she found it. When I was 12 and in 6th grade, I got in trouble for basically just goofing off and being poorly behaved in class at school. The teacher made me write a note to my parents telling them what I had done and she signed it and I signed it. And I was instructed to give it to my parents. I did bring it home but realized that my parents didn't know to be looking for it. So I decided to hide it. Because I feared it would be found in the trash. So I unscrewed the cover of the air conditioner vent and placed the note in there. Figuring in an emergency I could go back and get it if the teacher ever somehow asked about it. Fast forward like 15 years later or so. And my parents are having the air conditioning in the house replaced and also having the ducts cleaned in the process. Worker finds the now forgotten note and gives to my parents. I get a call, was living in an apartment in college at the time, that I needed to come home because we had to have a talk. Came home to serious parents who sat me down at the kitchen table to discuss the problems I'm having at school. I was beyond confused and so lost as to what they were talking about. They then bring out the now ancient note and we all had a good laugh about it. It was funny. I found my son's poop sock. Dare I ask what the frick that is? I've told this story before, but a year or two ago I slowly started cleaning my son's room. He was 13 at the time, I believe. I wanted to see how long I could do this until he noticed his room was magically getting cleaner. I would go in his room when he wasn't home and tidy the bookshelf one day. Another day I would go through the box that had his old schoolwork, etc. I knew I was opening myself to finding something I didn't want to find. And I was relieved and amused that all I found was candy wrappers. So many candy wrappers. We should own stock in Hershey. My mum's worst finds were when she used to read my Facebook messages. Other than go through my room. She found messages where I admitted to a friend that I was worried I might be pregnant. Read all the fights I had with my boyfriend, as I never held a relationship for very long. All the messages to my friend about feeling like I had no privacy and my friend insulting her and me not defending her. My friend still hates her. This was after I changed my password and she told me that if I didn't give her the new one I would lose all internet access while I was trying to pass GCSEs. About not being sure about dating this guy, she then sat me down to talk about breaking up with him and admitting to a close friend that I was experiencing gender dysphoria. She urged me to never stop being a girl. As a child who had a very nosy parent. Please just ask your kids about what is bothering them. To this day I can't have an open conversation with my mum because I don't trust her anymore. My daughter went through a phase when she was around 6-8 where she only ever put dirty tissues under her bed. I would regularly be on hands and knees sweeping boxes worth of tissues out from under there while going, "Why are you doing this? We have a bin." Thankfully she's past that. My mum found my contraceptive pill at one point. Never said anything about it, but I got home and she's tidied my room and left it nicely on my bedside table. Figure she was just pleased I was being sensible. I'm pretty sure my mom found my prescriptions I had from after having an abortion, but she never said a word about it to me. I had hidden them in my laundry hamper for 2 weeks. Near the end of the pill cycle I came home and mom said she had thrown some of my laundry into the wash. I panicked internally and ran back to my room. The pill bottles were in the hamper still under one layer of clothes. I'm still convinced there's no way she missed it, and I think she just chose to take it to her grave. It was 12 years ago. My nosy mother doesn't snoop through our things usually. But one time she happened to snoop through my brother's bedroom. She found condoms at the time. My brother has been dating his ex for about a year. My mom assumed they obviously had sex. I know this post is about the bedroom. But my parents are always managing their refrigerators around our house. One time, my mother found a bunch of empty Mike's Hard Lemonade bottles in the basement fridge. My mom assumed it was my dad at first, and then my mom said, double quote, "This is why your dad got a DUI once. Actually, it was my brother. And my brother had to end up admitting that he himself did it. My brother left those empty alcohol bottles in the fridge because he could not sneak it to the recycling bin while my parents were sitting on the couch or doing whatever in the house." When I was 13, I had 3 stash. One for booze, one for money, and one for weed. My mom knew about the 3 but I had no clue. One day she confronted me with the money stash. Worried that I was selling drugs or stealing stuff when all it was me stashing the weekly money she gave me. She didn't believe me, but I guess she watched it and understood what it was. Thing is, I was selling weed. Just not getting much money out of it. Buying half and once. Sell half of that and smoke for free. She admitted to me 10 years after that she knew about the 2 other stash and watched their supply regularly, but since I wasn't abusing and the supply were just slowly going down every weekend and not on school days, she never said anything about it. Kid here. My parents caught my older brother smoking pot in the house when I was 16 and he was 19, and they flipped out. My father went into a rage and went up into his room to find an ounce of weed, which of course they thought was enough to kill him. And a big old bong along with other basic paraphernalia like lighters and papers. They flipped out even harder. In the process of yelling at my brother, my father stormed into my room and shouted, "If you have anything in here you best come clean right fricking now." Stupid 16-year-old me tried to act innocent and told him I had nothing, when in reality I was sitting on several grams of MGMA, several dozen hits of acid, and a couple different pot vaporizers and a crap load of pot. My father proceeded to tear apart my room as well and busted open a cheap lockbox everything in with a hammer. I was on parental house arrest for quit a while after that, as well as made to do countless chores and punishments the whole time I was home. The level of trust my parents gave me was lowered significantly for the rest of my time living at home. My mom had a habit of sending me to my room as a child instead of addressing my problem behavior. Depending on her mood, I could be in there for 10 minutes or 2+ hours. On one particular day I either had particularly egregious behavior or she was in a really bad mood. Because I got sent to my room and waited for what felt like an eternity, I started to have to use the bathroom and asked for a reprieve. And was rebuffed. So I did what any other 8-year girl would do. I decided to empty the margarine tub that held my pushpins and pee in that. It was such a novelty that I proceeded to hoard margarine tubs and things of similar size and use them as toilets for the next few weeks. I'd close the lids and carefully stack them in my desk drawer. And then one day my mom decided to clean my room. I heard the yell from a floor away and I knew the jig was up. I was horrified and scared as a child. But as a full-grown adult I can't help giggling to myself every time I picture my mom opening that drawer and investigating what the mysterious items in the tubs were. I think my parents' most messed up things they found in my room was my journal documenting all the crazy shit I had to deal with. They were a lot more empathetic with my grades once they realized I was in a constant state of fear and danger on a regular basis. Other items include a knife that I used to cut myself with. Suicide note from when I was 17. Throw away for reasons. Cleaning teenage son's room one day. Using the broom to reach down and sweep under his bed. The broom clunks up against something hard in the back middle area under the bed. I'm a dust freak. Hardwood floors. So I use the broom and push the object out from under the bed so I can get all the dust. I walk over to the other side to see what in the hell it is. Before my eyes lay the absolute most massive, blackest ass dildo I have ever seen in my damn life. I said to myself, good lord. Son. Enjoy. But, ouch. So I pushed it back under and never said a word about it. My parents actually found beer cans under my brother's pillow. His defense? He'd found the discarded can in the yard and picked it up planning on throwing it away. He maintains that as truth. Even 18 years later.